think the members of the public see when they look at Lake Tahoe, if they've never been here before, they think everything there is supposed to belong. So I think there's an education piece in letting people know that no, some of these plants don't belong here, and so we really need to educate visitors and residents not to transfer invasive species from Lake Tahoe to these other lakes around the area.
Famous for its crystal clear waters, Lake Tahoe is often considered the crown jewel of the Sierra Nevadas. But in the past few decades, invasive plant species like the Eurasian water milfoil and curly-leaf pondweed have been taking over the marinas in South Lake Tahoe. Local organizations are working to control the problem before it spreads to the rest of the lake, damages its ecosystems, and muddies its water clarity.
In general, aquatic invasive species are plants that live in the water that aren't naturally from Tahoe. So in Tahoe, again, those two species were introduced in the 80s and 90s into the lake through various means, and have since taken hold and spread throughout those shallow areas, especially within our marinas. And they hamper water quality, they clog the boating ways for people's boats to get through. Eurasian water milfoil is actually commonly used as an aquarium plant, so it could have been someone who had in an aquarium that they no longer needed, that they dumped in the lake. If someone is boating in a lake or an area that has those plants, some of the fragmented materials can latch onto the boat and get transported to the next lake. These plants are very good at spreading because it only takes a small fragment of the plant in order to root and spread and become a whole new area. Aquatic invasive species can greatly impact recreation. When you go into an area that's shallow water where you may want to swim, if you go in and it's covered with weeds that have made the water smell bad and it's mucky, and you can't really see the bottom and they're touching you, it just doesn't make for a good recreation experience. If you have a recreational boat and you're boating through an area, those weeds can get clogged in your propeller and really potentially cause damage to your boat.
They are growing in the near shore of Lake Tahoe, and that's where most people engage and enjoy the lake, in the near shore areas. They can create algal blooms. It creates habitat for warm water fish species that we're not interested in. So from somebody that just likes to fish or just recreate or paddleboard or something like that, it's going to have a huge impact on their experience. Invasive aquatic plant species have huge impacts to our clarity, which is Tahoe's famed for. It can create increased nutrient loading in the lake, which leads to more algae, but certainly ultimately they're going to impact our $5 billion recreation-based economy.
So you see the stem, and then you have the leaves alternating. That's one way to tell the difference. And then this is that crinkly cut french fry look. Is you're going to each of these nodes, this is called a node, wherever the leaves sprout from is called a node, and every single one of those nodes can also sprout roots. So you can imagine, looking at all the fragments here, how much of a risk this is for Tahoe when you have fragments even just this small able to establish a new infestation in a suitable habitat in Lake Tahoe.
We want to reduce plant populations by 90% over 10 years. It's an ambitious goal, especially considering the level of infestation in the Tahoe Keys, but we have a strategic plan in place. Technically, the 10-year strategy begins in 2021, but we're not waiting to do that.
So with Eurasian water milfoil and curly-leaf pondweed, we go into the lake and remove them through various methods, including bottom barriers where scuba divers lay a tarp over the top of the plants and it cuts the light out from reaching them and they die. You also have hand suction removal where you basically take a big vacuum tube and suck them up out of the lake, or hand removal by divers. We also have the boat inspection program. So to prevent any new species or other plants from getting into the lake, every boat that enters Lake Tahoe must be inspected and make sure it's clean before going in our waters. As we move forward and look at aquatic invasive species in the future, climate change is going to be a big factor because that means the air around us is warming, so our lake is starting to warm, and as the lake warms, that creates more prime habitat for these invasive species to spread. So right now they're really isolated to these shallow warm water areas, but as the lake gets warmer, those areas could expand and we could see more invasive species. So it's really important for us to act now and really eliminate them from getting a foothold before it's too late and they take over more of our lake.